Oh, okay, have that snack. Have that snack. Okay, hello everybody, welcome to another video. This is gonna be a little bit different than some of the informational videos I've made in the past. This is gonna be a little bit more of like a tea party, I guess. Mostly because I have some tea and I want to drink my tea. Okay. So I'm just gonna drink tea and I'm gonna tell you a little bit what it's like to have a service dog, because I recently had a commenter, a very sweet comment, ask me about, what life is like with a service dog and like how to pick a good puppy prospect. So I thought I would discuss that a little bit. Hi, this is called tea. This is my multi-purpose service dog in training. He's currently off duty and is very sleepy. Are you sleepy? Yeah, he says he's sleepy. Oh, the big yawn. Okay, so first off, should you get a service dog? So I've answered this question a little bit for specific conditions, but in general, there are always some things that I've been repeating over every video, and so I'll talk about them a little bit. First off, remember the ADA defines a service dog as a dog or mini horse, but I'm mostly talking about dogs here, that is task trained to aid in a disability. Well, what does that mean? Your dog has to be trained to do something specific that mitigates your disability, meaning you have to have a disability, and you have to have the dog under your control at all times. Now, service dogs come in a lot of shapes. I know that Archer is not necessarily what you would think of when you think of a service dog, but he's still as valid a service dog as a guide dog that is a shepherd or a golden or a lab. I guess shepherds are fab four. So I don't know why I said that, but that's okay. Oh my goodness, are you doing these lickings? Is there something so yummy? Are you snooting? Yeah. Okay, so the thing is, first off, you have to be disabled to have a service dog. Service dogs are considered a disability aid, and I'm sure if you've gotten to this point, you're probably like, well, I already know that, but let's talk a little bit about being disabled and kind of what that means, because the ADA is pretty vague and there is a reason for that. So being disabled means that your condition is going to substantially limit one or more major life activities. This basically means that your life is significantly impacted by your condition. Now, I can't tell you whether or not you're disabled, but if you are finding that you are having significant troubles because of your condition, I would say that you are probably disabled. However, just because you're disabled does not mean a service dog is the next step. A lot of people get diagnosed with a condition and say, I want a service dog, and that's just not how that works. Yes, being disabled says that you legally are allowed to get a service dog, but service dogs should not be the first thing that you decide to do. This is because service dogs are not going to treat your disability. They are only there to help you manage it. Something like therapy or medication can actually help your symptoms regress or even treat your condition, unlike a service dog. A service dog may not be the very last resort, but it's pretty close to the bottom of the list. So you definitely want to make sure that you've tried therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, really whatever. As I said, it's just really important to remember that you want to try other things first, and you shouldn't jump too quickly into getting a service dog because, one, you're not only adding in another living being creature. Two, if there is a better method for you to manage your condition, you should go for it. This is, I think, where people can have some issues with psychiatric service dogs. So things like depression and anxiety have medications that have been very well tested, are very effective, and the thing is, not only do they have one medication that works, but there are dozens of medications that have been very well proven to help. And even if, that one medication doesn't work, you can go to other ones. And there's also therapies and lifestyle changes that can work. If you've exhausted all of those other options, that is when you would go for a service dog. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that psychiatric service dogs are not valid. My dog is mainly psychiatric. But I'm also saying that, getting diagnosed with anxiety and immediately jumping into getting a service dog is probably not going to be the right option. I cannot emphasize this enough, so I'm going to repeat. Service dogs are a tool for mitigating your disability. They will not cure your disability. They will not take away your symptoms. They will help you manage your symptoms and go out in public and live your life. But they're also living and breathing creatures. You cannot get a dog if you're not in the right space to get a dog, you can't get a service dog. Unless your problem is just that like a pet fee or something like that. But you have to remember that this is still an animal that you have to take care of. You have to feed the dog, you have to walk the dog, and if that's just not something that you're ready for, service dogs may not be a good choice for you. You also have to do a lot of training with the dog. Even if you're program training, sometimes you will still have to work with the dog, and you do have to be, when you're handling the dog in public, there is some active handling in regards to that. But in general, you shouldn't take the decision to make the decision to get a service dog and use that as a aid for your disability lightly, and it also shouldn't be the only thing you're doing. So you should ideally be using a service dog with other mitigation strategies and other treatments. A service dog is one tool in your toolbox. It's not the entire thing. This goes especially because this is another living creature. If your dog retires, washes, gets sick, can't work for a few days, you can't be super, super crippled to the point where you literally cannot go out and function. And I mean, yes, it is significantly harder to function without my service dog, but I can still do it, even if it's not something that I would prefer to do. Hello, did you move away? Come. This is my name. Oh my goodness. Are you floofing? Oh my goodness, a floof. He's floof. Okay. I rub your neck, okay? I love you. Oh my goodness, are you doing the koodles? So I'm going to reiterate, service dogs are still dogs, and that means that you do have to be ready for all of the work and the expenses that would come with getting a dog. Now, pet fees you may not have to pay, and service dogs are allowed in non-pet friendly housing. You again have to take on basically everything else. Nobody's going to pay for your vet bills just because they're a service dog, and sometimes they're covered by insurance and sometimes they're not. Yeah, let me see if I can move so you can see him. Yeah, I don't know how that's working. He's right there, by the way. He's just being an imp. So with that in mind, if you've decided, I've been through all of that, I think I can take on a dog, let's talk a little bit about what life is like having a service dog. So first off, there are two major ways that you can get a service dog. Either you will program train or you will owner train. Sometimes you can do like a combination of both, where you work with a program, but you do a lot of the training on your own, or if you're shadowing a trainer. I know that Ruka, the golden retriever, if you follow her page, I believe the handler's name is Julia. They did that because she was shadowing a professional trainer and she got her own psychiatric service dog out of that. But anyways, program service dogs are very expensive. They can cost upwards of $50,000. So that's a huge financial commitment, and a lot of us are not ready for that, I'm gonna be honest. Especially if you're younger, I don't know that many people who just are like, yeah, let me drop 50 grand on a service dog, especially because it's an animal and stuff happens. But if you don't program train and the dog does not come to you fully trained, you have to be prepared for the idea that your service dog may not become a service dog. This is known as washing, and it is very common, especially with owner trained dogs. there is estimates that about 50 to 70% of service dogs will wash. And first off, this is not a service dog failing. It's just the owner deciding that the dog is not suitable for service work. And while it's a very tough decision to make, it is sometimes the right one, and it is honestly a very hard and strong decision to make. Again, it is not a failure. It is doing what is best for the dog. Oops, 2 of my nails have fallen off. Anyways, Nippin, what are you doing? Is he so happy? He says he's happy. Come here. I love you. Oh, he's so sleepy. I have to remark on these things, you guys. This is like my job. Like, you know. Where was I? Okay. So, you have to be prepared that your dog may not become a service dog. So again, that goes double. If you are not ready to have a pet, you're not ready to have a service dog. If you owner train, there's a lot of time that goes in, more than a normal dog, because you're taking the 2 years of training that program dogs have, and you are doing this all by yourself. So it can be more than 2 years, obviously. Like the boy is, he's 2. He's not going to be done for probably 6 months to a year. He'll be done by the time I go to college, which is good. And he's ready for non-pet friendly stuff. This is just fine-tuning, off leash, adding tasks. Anyways, so that's a big time commitment, pretty big money commitment as well, because you have to be able to pay for pet food, vet care, pet insurance if you want to buy that, all of that stuff. And along with working with a trainer, if this is your first time training a service dog, and for a lot of you guys, I think it will be if you're watching this video, otherwise you probably know a little bit more about the process. Oh, are you so big? He's gigantic. Oh my goodness. He's really big, you guys. He's so big and scary. Anyways, if this is your first time training a service dog, I highly recommend that you work with a trainer. I mean, if you're a professional trainer yourself, like, maybe you don't have to, or if you've been training dogs, but it's just really helpful to have a professional who can come in with, more unbiased eyes and say, hey, this is something you might want to work on. This is how you can do it, because obviously when you're not a professional, you don't know all that stuff. Is it a requirement? No. Do I highly recommend it? Yes. And I say this as someone who has not worked with a trainer. Like, I fully owner train my dog. I want to work with a trainer for fine-tuning purposes. I just haven't had a chance to yet. So when you owner train a dog, you can do 2 things. You can either get a puppy specifically as a service dog prospect and say, I'm getting a puppy with the intention of this puppy becoming a service dog. Hopefully, they'll be able to work and help mitigate my disability if they don't wash out. Or you can have a dog that you already have and say, hey, I'm going to take this dog and turn this dog into a service dog. Now, I have more experience on the latter because, story time, my dog is 2. I got him at 9 weeks old. We're talking about you, Nippin. He broke a leg the day we got him. We spent the first night with him in the ER, or the vet ER, or whatever you call that place. And then we wound up in a different ER after he broke another leg. And that was a very interesting experience. I don't recommend it. In our defense, he liked jumping off couches, and I don't think any of us realized just how, 1, reckless he was, and 2, fragile 9-week-old Pomeranian bones are, because he didn't jump that far, relatively. He just was small. And so if Pom owners, careful. Anyways, after that, he was never socialized properly as a puppy, and he didn't get a lot of chances to hang out with other puppies because we were told, limit movement. He got vaccinated kind of late, just because of his surgeries. So by the time he was finally out and we could start even basic obedience training, I'm talking literally like sit, stay down, he was probably 7, 8 months old. And we got him like neutered at 9 months, but by that point he was already very reactive. He was never aggressive. Don't get me wrong. This was not an aggression thing. He was just alert, and he would bark and 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 bark. He still barks, but not on duty. So it's a breed thing. It's also just, he's like, I don't know what that is. That's another dog. I don't like this. I'm gonna bark at you. This morning he did it to some deer outside of our house. He can bark when he's not working. I don't really care. It was very loud and a little bit shrill. So I did care at that point. But in general, I'm not one to say you need to act like a service dog 24/7, because he's going to be a weirdo at home, and that's fine. That's the way I like this boy. I love you. I love him, you guys. I love him very much. Anyways, so basically what I did is I started training him. I lived in an apartment building, so I would take him downstairs and in the lobby, and this was like a really pet-friendly building. So I would like just train him. I would get him used to other people, other dogs. It was pretty bad at first. He was very loud. Like, he would not stop barking. And if you lived with me in the building, I think I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry y'all have to deal with this. But it did get better. And so I think people were not as mad at me because, 1, I was working on it, and 2, he was a puppy, and 3, he was pretty cute, and 4, everyone could see that it got so much better. He went from barking at literally everything to being a really well-behaved dog in the span of less than a year. He was still barky sometimes. Yeah, case in point. 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Oh my goodness, dude, just high five. Oh yeah, that was so nice. Can you turn? Oh yeah, sit down. Good job. Have this snack. Anyways, sorry about that. He saw something and got a little spooked. Anyways, I don't even remember where I was, but anyways, so I started obedience training him at one point when he was like 10 months old, 11 months old. I taught him how to interrupt hair pulling, and I taught him to jump on me if I was touching my hair. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he can learn, to do a nonverbal cue where I don't say anything, it's just a behavior. And I was watching like service dog videos, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder if he could do that. He's a very good boy. And he did do that. He did that very well. So I taught him a few more tasks. I taught him another behavior interruption. I taught him like crowd control. And I started practicing, his leash manners, his obedience, his neutrality. And it was a really good environment because there were a lot of dogs, a lot of people, a lot of random noises and all of that. And eventually he just got better and better and better. And at one point I was like, you know what? He could actually be a service dog. And so kept working with him. I didn't really start much public access with him until we moved out of that place, which was, which was when he was about 18 months old. And then I had to replace it. Replace all that training with somewhere else. Oh, you dropped his crumb. Pooh, you dropped his crumb. This snack. This piece of the snack. Oh, okay, he likes that snack. So that's kind of the way I did it. I got him intending for him to be an ESA and not a service dog, but it worked really well. I originally intended for him to be completely psychiatric, and then started noticing that he kind of naturally picked up on cardiac alert, so I taught him cardiac alert, and that was basically that. And we've just been fine-tuning ever since. So you've seen him. If you do that, I will say you want to be careful with temperament. And so temperament is honestly, well, it's double important when you're picking a puppy for a service dog prospect, because once you've gotten your dog, like, you're not going to be like, well, they didn't work out as a service dog, so I'm not keeping him as a pet when you've already had the pet for like 2 years. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. So let's talk about temperament for a service dog. I'm sorry if this video is really discombobulated, by the way. I'm just yapping. So for a service dog, you want a service dog that, in my opinion, and I'm sure people will come argue a little bit with me on this one, The most important thing for a service dog to have is passion. So if a dog actually enjoys working, you can teach a lot of other skills. Now, is that everything? No. But having a dog who genuinely enjoys working and isn't going to start resenting the work or getting nervous at working or just genuinely going to be happy when working, very, very helpful. That's hard to tell, but I would say if you get a puppy, you want to see, are they friendly? Are they okay around new people? Now, service dogs tend to be pretty handler focused as a general rule. They don't have to be, but that's always that's helpful. I would say, you want a dog that isn't scared of people, but you don't need a dog that's necessarily going to run up to everybody, because that is something that you would probably have to train out. Having a dog that's food motivated, in my opinion, is a huge blessing. This boy right here, he loves his food. Do you love food? Yeah, you love food. He literally would like to be a piece of food. He would sit in a bowl of fruit, you guys. I'm not even joking. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit, but I think he would anyways. So having a dog that's food motivated will be very helpful, because when you're training, you're often going to want to start with positive reinforcement. And then only if necessary will you be adding in, prong, correction, stuff like that. So having a dog that will respond well to that praise, that reinforcement, is really, really beneficial. I would say having a dog that learns things quickly is not a necessity, but is also very helpful. And then I feel like one of the other most important things is the bond that you build with the dog. You need to build trust with the dog, because there are going to be times that your dog is going to get startled or scared. And there's no way around that. Same thing, your dog's always going to make mistakes. You can't be perfect. But it's all about how they recover from the mistakes, how they recover from being startled. And if they have trust in you to handle that situation and to enforce their boundaries, things will go a lot smoother. For example, if there's a kid that is going near him, and if we didn't have a good bond, he might be tempted to bark at the kid or try to move away from the kid. But because he knows that I will handle it, I'll get the kid away, I won't let anything happen to him, he's okay and he's comfortable to just sit there because he has trust in me. And at the same way, the trust goes both ways. And with a service dog, it's really important to remember they are trusting you to make sure they're okay, but you're also trusting them. I trust him to make sure that he's alerting me properly and that he's getting me where I need to go, and all of that. Obviously, I don't necessarily have, it's not like he's the only tool I have, again. But I do place a lot of confidence in him and his training so that he can go in places with me, and I trust that he's going to behave himself and act properly. So that's a relationship that you want to spend time cultivating, because that's very important. Temperament-wise, you do want an eager-to-please dog. You can have a stubborn dog, because, listen, stubbornness and being eager to please are not opposites. This one, very stubborn. This dog is a Spitz dog, okay? So he's basically a husky, but joke. He's still eager to please. He wants to do things. He wants to make his people happy. He wants to be, loved. He likes praise. He likes stuff like that. So that's a good trait to have in a service dog. Not being fearful or too nervous. And especially if your dog gets fearful, you can work through fear, but being able to recover properly is very helpful. If his tail tucks, his tail will go back up after a minute when, whatever it is that startled him has passed. Originally, in crowded environments, he was very nervous. That's okay, because they were very crowded environments, but we worked through it. He could recover. He learned how to work through that. So honestly, just being able to be taught and to take corrections, because some dogs will shut down if you correct them, and that's why you got to find the corrections that work. And being able to self-correct also is very important. Handler focus is good. Honestly, I feel like the best service dogs are oftentimes Velcro dogs. And I mean, look, so sometimes I wish I could go to the bathroom without having a pair of eyes stare into my soul, but it's the price you must pay sometimes. So, yeah. So smart as well. What else? You don't want a dog that's scared of the world or of the environment. Like this one, this dog wakes up every day ready to fight God. Okay? He would go up to a deity and be like, I can fight you and win. And we all have to be like, no, 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 you can't do that. But that confidence in himself is very helpful with service work, especially for a small dog. Breed-wise, and this kind of goes hand in hand with temperament because breed will influence temperament. It is not all in the way a dog is raised. A lot of it is in the way dogs are raised, yes. But dogs were historically bred for jobs, and through that breeding, they inherited certain traits. Now, can you have a retriever who doesn't want to retrieve? Absolutely. Can you have this weirdo who thinks he's not even a dog, he thinks he's a cat and wants to play with a yarn? Yeah! But at the same time, instincts are going to be instincts. Which is why there's a Fab Four of dogs. And I would say, golden retrievers, Labrador retrievers are the two that you want to look at. The other two that you can think of are poodles, which I had like a poodle mix. I had a Maltese poodle. Don't come after me. This was 20 years ago. I had no hand in picking him out. I wasn't born yet. He was a great dog. He would have sucked at service work because he was too stubborn. And he just wanted to be pampered all day. But he was a good dog. We loved him. He didn't really like it he didn't really like it when I tried to get him to ride my toy horse with me, but in my defense, I was like 5, okay? I was like 5. We're not gonna talk about that. Anyways, and then collies. Border collies are herding dogs. They are very, high, very intelligent, very high drive. So collies does not refer to border collies. They can be service dogs. For example, if you look at Violence, which is Sheltie Fidget's service dog, she's an amazing service dog, right? You can have an off-breed service dog, but Fab Four usually will refer to rough collies and smooth collies. Now, you don't have to necessarily be in the Fab Four. There is no requirement for you to be in the Fab Four. A common one that people use outside of the Fab Four is German Shepherds. Shepherds tend to be a little bit high drive, can be a little bit nervous, and honestly, collies can also be a little bit sensitive. So in general, I would say a lot of times people are looking for a good lab or a good golden, but you could always be looking outside of that. If you want a smaller dog, you could look at, like a mini poodle, because they'll inherit many of the same traits. You can look at a Papillon. You can look at what else? You could look at a Pomeranian. There's a fair few service Pomeranians. Medical Alert Maisie, Nova, the service pup, and there's a few others, along with my baby. I'm very proud of him. And then, you could look at a Cavalier as well. In general, you want a dog that enjoys working, and a lot of times, remember, if you get a working dog, and just because your dog is small does not mean they are not a working dog, but if you get a working dog, you need to give it work, or else they will give themselves work. If your dog gives themselves work, you will not like the work they give themselves. Okay, you will come home and be like, why is my drywall on the floor? The answer is because your dog decided their job was a demolition specialist. You don't want that, okay? This is why you gotta stimulate your dogs, people. Anyways, working dogs, give them jobs, they're great. Drive-wise, you can definitely have a high drive dog be a service dog. You can have a mutt be a service dog. You can have any breed be a service dog. These are just some of my recommendations. I would always say start with the Fab Four, or especially start with the Terrific 2. Is that the name? Goldens and Labs, and then see what fits your needs. I'm not saying, you can't have a non-Fab Four service dog, because, yeah, but you have the best chance of success if you go for a Fab Four dog. They're a starting point. They're not the end all be all, but they're always what I'm going to recommend to beginners because there's the most evidence with them, and just in general, the traits line up quite nicely. You don't want a super high drive dog that will, get easily distracted if they have a high prey drive. But that being said, I mean, look at Leilani, the Service Flowers service dog. She's a Belgian Malinois, a working line Belgian Malinois. Amazing service dog. Her other service dog, Jasmine, is a Husky mix, which, like traditionally they're not service dogs, but this is just to show that while Fab 4 is the most common and German Shepherds, there are many service dogs of many breeds. What's wrong, Nippin? No. Hang on, I'm gonna take a break and rub his tummy. Okay, so please note I don't usually give my dog this many treats, but I found like a few extras and I was like, let me just get rid of them. Have that snack. So let's talk about what life looks like when you have a service dog. It depends on the breed. If you have a Doberman service dog, people are gonna tend to approach you a little bit less because they tend to be scary looking. But if you have a small service dog that looks very handsome and very cute, like this Nippin. Oh, you want this snack? Touch. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a high five. Can you go down? Can you wave? Wave at this camera. Wave. No, at the camera, Nippin. Come here. Okay. There you go. Sit up. Yeah. Can you wave? Oh, that was so nice. Have that snack. Depends on what breed of dog you get. But you will get a lot of attention with the service dog. You'll get a lot of people saying, oh my god, that's such a cute dog. What kind of dog is that? Personally, I have a very cute looking dog, and are you pretty? You pretty? He knows he's pretty, okay? He knows. He says, I'm so pretty. Never. Come here, have the rest of your snack. Whoa, he teleported. No, he didn't. I just paused the camera. Oh, okay. Anyways, it depends on what kind of dog you have. I have a cute dog, so I get a lot of people saying, is that a Keyshawn? Is that a Pomeranian? What kind of dog is that? That dog is so cute. Can I pet that dog? Oh, say hi to the doggy, stuff like that. And so that's my dog. I feel like I get more attention than most service dog handlers just because of how cute my dog is and because he's a small, fluffy dog and people are like, oh my god, small, fluffy dog, brain short circuits, all of that. If you're not comfortable with attention, this is probably not the tool for you. However, if your dog is your special interest or you are really comfortable talking about your dog, it may be okay with you. Like me, I will say my biggest problem is that I have to stop myself from yapping for 25 minutes about oh my god, this is my dog, this is how I train him, this is what he does, because I like talking about this boy. You'll get a lot of interesting questions. I personally have actually had some pretty good questions. Mostly I've gotten a lot of what breed is that, what kind of dog is he. My favorite is when I'm like, oh, he's psychiatric and cardiac alert. They're like, oh, does he alert to heart attacks? And I'm like, no. I find that really funny, personally. Anyways, you will get a lot of attention. That's my biggest thing. You also have to remember that this is something you're going to be looking out for the whole time. It's like having a child with you, especially when they're in training. It's like having a very well-behaved child, because you're going to get a lot of people coming up to you and you have to manage that, and you have to manage it in a way that doesn't add to your stress, but also you don't want to be a jerk about it, because you have to remember that a lot of people have never seen a service dog before. So this is something new and interesting to them. You want to make sure your dog is comfortable handling all of that, and you're comfortable as well, because if you're not comfortable, your dog is going to feed off of your nervousness, your anxiety. I will say I get a lot of very sweet interactions and it brightens my day, but doing everything kind of takes twice as long, I've noticed, as when I go alone, because I'll get a lot of I get a lot of questions, I get a lot of conversations, a lot of people stopping me to ask. So if that is something that you don't really like or you wouldn't like, Positives and negatives. That's something you want to think about. You're going to have to prepare for the fact that there will be fake service dogs. You want to make sure your dog is pretty desensitized to that. That's something, like I have a formerly very dog reactive dog. You want to make sure that you, aren't going to make sure you're not going to be super upset if your plans get rerouted, because sometimes for the safety of your dog, you're going to have to go around. And yes, it's really annoying. It's really irritating. It's really frustrating. But you always have to make sure you're putting your dog's safety first. You'll probably get some access issues as well. I personally have not gotten that many access issues. I also live in a very dog friendly area, so I've gotten more fakes. You'll probably get a lot of, you won't really get asked the 2 questions that much, but you should still have an answer to them prepared if you're the kind of person who gets a little bit tongue-tied when people are approaching you, which is okay because I get that too. But you will probably get a lot of people being like, oh, do you have paperwork? So being able to calmly explain, like, there's no paperwork, etc. And that goes double if your service dog is going to be off leash. By the way, if your service dog is going to be off leash, I would say that's going to be extra time that you want to work. Make sure your dog is comfortable on a leash and then take them off the leash. Because when they're like off leash, there's no safety net. You are relying fully on your vocal commands, your verbal commands. That's amazing. Not really. I don't know what that is. What else? A lot of people are going to ask you to pet the dog. Fair warning, the kids are going to be fine. It's not the kids you have to worry about. Who do you have to worry about? It's the adults. Man, the adults are going to think they're entitled to pet your dog, coo at your dog, whatever to your dog. And your dog, if your dog is a people watcher like mine, they're going to be like, oh my God, the dog looked at me. We have a connection. No, you don't have a connection, Jessica. Honey, please, slow down. My dog looked at you because he was confused as to what your coffee stick was, or the stirring thing. So you got to make sure you're comfortable asserting yourself. And that's something you learn when you're handling. Like, I tend to not be super assertive, but it's something that I'm working on, and it's something that if you get a service dog, you'll work on too, When you have a service dog, especially if you train your own service dog, you'll be very proud of your service dog. So, remember, my children, you don't need to give a 45-minute explanation of what your dog does. It's okay. You can answer the question, but you don't want to go into too much detail because nobody asked for a 20-minute synopsis of training, okay? I say this with all the love in my heart, and I mean this to myself as well, because I'm a little bit guilty of that one. What else? You'll get some issues, but you'll also get a lot of really positive interactions. Having a service dog, I would say, it's not just presence. College Board needs to stop sending me emails. Whatever. It's not just their presence that will help you, but their presence will also be comforting, because knowing that they're there and that they will have your back if something happens is really, really helpful. And knowing that they're trained, it's also a good distractor if you're anxious to be like, hey, can we run through some training drills? Can you do this happy boy spin? All of that. That's also very helpful. Knowing that you have an assistant or a friend or the baby there to help you is very comforting as well. I found that it reduces my dizziness and my anxiety when going into public places, even though, I think a lot of it is because I'm not worried about not feeling well, because I know he'll alert me. I know he can do things for me. He can keep me with, my group, all of that. But you also you want to make sure that if something happens and you are in a medical episode, when your dog is in training, sometimes stuff happens. So, you want to make sure that if you are not feeling well, can you handle people still coming up to you nicely, And that's where, oh my God, stop. Nobody cares about your college. I mean, I'm sure people care about it. I don't care about the college right now. Okay, slow down. Anyways, you want to make sure you're prepared for the attention. Some of it is very sweet. and genuinely brightens my day. And I will say, for me, having a service dog is one of the best decisions I've ever made. But there's a lot of things you need to keep in mind because it's a complicated decision. I hope this video helped you. Let me know if I didn't explain anything or you have any follow-up questions for me. I can make another part 2 video. This video is at 40 minutes right now, so I'll probably cap it here. Let me know if you like the new style as well of me just like sitting here and like drinking tea and yapping with you. You know, tea time with me. And if you like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I don't make any money from making these videos, by the way. I do this purely because I like doing it and I love seeing your reactions. So if you let me know that you like this video, that will genuinely make my day. So, yeah. Bye, guys.